right. Well, first and foremost, we got 14, 15 guys on tonight. Thank you very much for taking time on Wednesday evening to come be a part of this meeting. Tonight's guest is Mr. Colton Wiezbicki with the NSAA, the director of baseball, the keeper of all things, the almighty, the legendary. And tonight's meeting is going to be a little bit different than the last couple we have done. Last couple have been more of a I ask questions, we get answers type of thing. I felt like this was a really good opportunity for us as an association to connect with the NSAA and figure out what's all the information coming into them on weeks 1 and 2, whether it's good, bad, ugly. How can we get better? What are the things that we're doing right? And so on and so forth from there. So, Colton, thank you very much for taking time to be on the meeting with us tonight. I greatly appreciate it. And I'll kind of just let you take over with the stuff that we kind of talked about earlier today.
Well, thanks, Chris. I have a plethora of notes here, and I'm not going to give Chris any legendary call outs or anything like that, like he did for me. We'll keep it pretty level headed around here because it's pretty hard for him to walk through a doorway as it is. So we wanted to discuss today the good, the bad, the ugly. Obviously, we're 2 weeks in, and the fortunate thing is there hasn't been a lot of bad. So I'm actually really pleased with how the year has started. But we'll go ahead and we'll go in order here: good, bad, ugly. Kind of what we've had laid out here. First off, we're going to just talk a little bit about general overall. Overall, this year, the NSAA, we are actually up over 20 umpires this year than we were last year. So that's we're trending in the right direction, which is a good thing. There's a lot of first-year guys, a little over 40 first-year guys that registered and were classified this year. Which is great. The big thing is when it comes to that is we need to work on retention. And so that's kind of the what I need help with from all of you. If you're a veteran umpire and you're working with someone that's a first year, their first couple of years, you know, it's hard to get them in the door, but then once they're in the door, it's also hard to keep them after year number 1. So if you could work with them, kind of mentor them through, that would be fantastic. So that way we can keep that number of umpires up. Overall, throughout the years so far, coaches have been complimentary of our umpires and how they've been working. I think the good weather has helped with that. But I also feel like, and just talking with some of the coaches that have called in, I also feel like everyone has a little bit more confidence this year. And I don't know what the difference is for this year to previous years, but they feel like our umpires are showing up well prepared to each and every game, which is good. So tip of the cap on that deal. Other things, talking to coaches, pace of play. I know that's been a huge point of emphasis the last couple of years. And now it's starting to seem like coaches are making it a priority. Just in the conversations that I've had with them, they feel that games are moving quicker and a lot smoother than they have in previous years. So a lot of that, and we've talked about this, a lot of that is on the umpire to control the pace of play. And so, you know, them making it a priority and feeling that things are running smoother is, again, another tip of the cap to you guys and how you control your game management. On top of that, our observers are out there right now. They're working their tails off. There's a lot of things that I kind of put on their plate this year to try and see how we can make our umpires better each and every week. There's a lot of different resources that they have compiled and put out there now. If you read the weekly Diamond report that I send out, they came up with a game management guide, and they also came up with an umpire guide that kind of outlines what their points of emphasis are for the year. If you haven't read it, those points of emphasis are consistency, communication, and engagement. When they come out and they observe, those are the things that they're looking for specifically on top of what is also on the observation form. So They put in a lot of really, really good work. And like I said, they're working their tails off. I think the biggest thing, and I went and did a couple of observations with Jason Harstick these last couple of weeks. I was just with him on Monday. I think the biggest thing is, and I haven't seen anyone that hasn't been so far, but be open to the feedback that you receive from those guys. They're just trying to put you in a position to be successful moving forward and try and help you get better. So just be open to that feedback when you do hear from them when they come out. Again, I haven't heard of anyone not being receptive, and that they usually call me right away once that happens. So,
yeah, and if you're not receptive to that information, you're getting demoted.
Says Chris. Next, we'll jump into the bad. And again, I don't want the bad to seem like it's bad. This is more of just how things have kind of transpired. First one, inconsistency, and we talked about one of the points of emphasis for our observers was consistency this year. When I'm talking inconsistency, I'm not so much talking your strike zone. I'm not talking about things, specific calls, judgment calls. One that I received today from a coach in Omaha, and I know that Omaha is operating a little bit differently than Lincoln is, as Chris has tried to incorporate the pitch clock in Lincoln. But what we had today was a coach from Omaha has come down to Lincoln multiple times, and in 3 instances has gotten 3 different explanations on the pitch clock and how that works. Came down the first time, they used the pitch clock, they got banged on it 4 times, which he was like, okay, fine. If that's what we're going to do, then I'm good with it. Then came down another time, and the umpire said, well, we're not going to start the game with it, but if we're going to, if the pace of play isn't where it needs to be, then we're going to throw it in there. And then this last time that they came down yesterday, someone told them that they weren't going to use the pitch clock because there was no penalty for the batter. It was just a penalty for the pitcher. So essentially in that rundown right there, we just need to make sure that if we're going to use the pitch clock, we need to be consistent in how we're going to do that throughout the entire association, entire CUA, make sure everyone's on the same page with that. I will say once we get into the postseason, we will not use the pitch clock. So districts and state, we will not be using the pitch clock whatsoever. That's how we're going to operate in a postseason situation. So,
okay. I want to add a little bit something to that if I can. So yep. I know at the beginning of the season, I think it was day 1, the Thursday that opening day started, I kind of sent out some clarifications on how we need to use common sense and fair play, how we need to adjudicate the pitch clock and stuff like that. So we should not be having umpires giving 3 different explanations, because I've given everybody an explanation of how that pitch clock should work. My question to you, Colton, would be, we all know what the rule says in the NFHS rule book. If we're not going to use it at the state and district tournament, is that something you want us to continue to enforce, or is it something that we just kind of need to put some glaze over?
Yeah, I think I'll leave that up to you, Chris, and it's kind of a non-answer for you. I see benefits and to it. I think it's good to start integrating that into the game, because I do believe that at some point it's coming. I know last year there were some proposals to kind of clean that up, so that way it was a little bit easier and a lot better for our umpires to operate through all of that. They had stuff in there for a hitter, if they weren't in by a certain time, or all that other fun stuff. They didn't pass any of that. So I think it's coming. I just don't know exactly when that is coming. But my biggest thing is just the consistency piece. We have a bunch of schools that aren't using it, and then there's schools in Lincoln that are using it. I just don't want there to be a situation where a school from North Platte comes to Lincoln and then all of a sudden they're getting banged with the pitch clock when they haven't had it all year. So again, I apologize for the non-answer. I'm good with whatever you decide that you want to do, kind of like what we discussed prior to the season starting. So
okay. Yep. And I will resend out an email about the parameters and the expectations that I kind of had to start the season with that again once we get finished up with that meeting, which I discussed with you, Colton. So make sure everybody that's on this or everybody that watches this video reviews that, because we should not be giving coaches different answers. There's only one answer.
Hey, Colton, real quick. Do all the coaches in the state, are they aware of the pitch clock at the because I had an Omaha coach come down here and we went through the varsity game and there was no issue, but he was still in the dugout, and we weren't scolded. My partner did not scold the pitcher. He just asked him to pick it up a little bit. And the varsity coach yelled out, he said, "There is no pitch clock in Nebraska this year." And my partner said, "Yes, there is at the varsity level. They're going to watch that." He said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And he kind of went nuts.
Yeah, I don't know that all the coaches know that. It's been in the rule book, in the NFHS rule book, since the 70s. So it's always been in there. I think it's just lost on the generation of coaches that we have now.
Well, I appreciate you clarifying that, because I was completely blown away when the coach was going nuts about it. I'm like, boy, how does he not know this? And he's a varsity coach in Omaha.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, Colton.
And I think the context in this is probably a little important as well. And so we have meetings with all of our state associations across the country, sport specific ones. And this is one that gets brought up quite a bit. The directive from the NFHS is do not have your umpires do it unless they feel the pace of play is slow, then have them start using it. And from my vantage point, I don't think it's fair to start a game without a pitch clock, and then all of a sudden in the third inning, you're like, y'all are taking too slow. You guys are going to go 20-second pitch clock. So either start the game with it or you don't have it at all is kind of the motto that I've kind of adopted just with the directive given from the NFHS. And I don't know that they know exactly what direction they want to go in either. So,
And I'm gonna finish that up with, we're gonna be on top of the pitch clock in our varsity games because those are no time limit games. So when you got a JV or a reserve or a freshman and you've got a 90-minute or 2-hour time limit, use common sense, be liberal. If they're taking a long time, go talk to the assistant coach in between innings or after the half inning. Go talk to the pitcher during a dead ball situation. Be like, hey, FYI, there's a 20-second pitch clock. If you go pitch on varsity, you might want to pick it up a little bit, right? Use common sense and fair play. We should not be enforcing the 20-second pitch clock during JV and below because there's already a 2-hour time limit.
Sweet. All right. Next, trying to decide what direction I want to go in here. If something happens where it's a point of emphasis situation, so here's an example that we had last week. We had a situation where an umpire made an obstruction call. And as we know that's one of the points of emphasis for this year. The umpire quoted the POE, said it's a point of emphasis for this year. Coach backed off. Later in the game, there was a situation that happened where their best player grounded out to shortstop or whatever. Their best player got out, and the entire dugout of the opposing team was chirping the heck out of this kid, which, again, a point of emphasis is bench jockeying. So then the question came, well, if you're going to make obstruction a point of emphasis, why aren't we making bench jockeying a point of emphasis? So my biggest thing here is if you're going to quote a POE when you're talking to a coach that comes out and has a question about it, make sure that we're enforcing all of the POEs. Otherwise, you're going to hear about it. Again, that was a situation that happened last week. Bench jockeying, I have only been to a handful of games. You all have probably been to more games than I have so far this year. Bench jockeying in the games that I've been to seem to have been cleaned up a little bit. I'm actually going to ask here, has anyone had any issues with dugouts being out of control? Okay, it's pretty early in the year. Once we get to about mid-April, that's when all the wheels seem to start falling off. So it's coming, I would imagine. But it seems like teams are doing better. So that's good on their part. Next, positioning. There's been multiple.
I got one question on bench jockeying that I want to get clarified. Just real quick. Okay. So let's say we do run into an issue. first thing we should always try to do as umpires, guys, is just tell them to knock it off. Be like, hey, guys, knock it off. We're not doing that today. We don't need to rush into warnings or anything like that. Right? Give them a chance to knock it off. Give the head coach and assistant coaches a chance to kind of cool down the dugout. If we do get to a point where we do issue a bench jockeying, I know that the rule is different at different levels, Colton. Where some say if you issue a bench jockeying warning to one team, you're issuing it to both teams. Under the NFHS, if we issue a bench jockeying warning to one team, does that also apply to the other, or do we let them make a mistake before we issue them one?
Yeah, I'm reading the POE right now as we're talking.
I don't think it specifies, but
I don't think it does either. I would say, again, a non-answer. I was going to say leave it. It's up to you. By rule, sportsmanship is prohibited and will result in warnings, restrictions, or ejections as deemed appropriate by the umpire. Enforcement of this rule is not about silencing enthusiasm. It's about upholding the spirit of fair play and modeling appropriate conduct for students,
Correct.
schools, and communities. I would say per team, Chris.
Per team.
I think you do it per team. I don't think it's an overall warning for everyone. It's all right. Here's your one. Okay, now you got your one. We get another one. Y'all are going.
Yep, I agree.
It looks like Tucker had chimed in here. What did Tucker have to say? I'm a Zoom guy. I'm not a messages guy. Here we go. All right.
No problem. I just said I had one warning given to the Fairbury bench in the opening weekend for comments directed at the pitcher, saying pitcher specifically, how could you give up a bomb to a freshman pitcher? How could you get taken beat by a freshman? Gave a bench jockeying warning. Coach fixed it. It stopped.
Perfect.
Yep. That's
Thank
what
you.
we want.
Thanks for being proactive on that, Tucker. All right. So the next thing I was going to dive into is positioning. I know it's still early in the year, but positioning on the field, specifically at home plate and when you're in the field on plays at the plate or plays at bases, just being cognizant of where we're at. You'll see this week in the Diamond Report, which is my next point that I'll talk about. This week in the Diamond Report, we actually threw in there you make the call. And it's a situation where a lot of different things going on. But if you take a look at that, I urge you to take a look at some of the positioning stuff as well from that umpire and make your own assumptions on what that looks like. So just, again, as we progress through, making sure we're being aware of where we're at on the field. Last thing, Diamond Report. I do send that out weekly. I know most of the time it's long-winded. I do apologize for that. I'm just trying to get as much information out as possible and trying to make it as clear as possible for everyone. We've gone to a new format, so that way it's broken down by information that's important to schools. There's information that's important to umpires, and then there's also, hey, this is what happened this week in a ruling. This is, take a look at that stuff. Make sure you're reading the Diamond Report. We did have an instance last week where I put something in the Diamond Report. The coach had read it. The umpire had not. And there was the same exact situation happened out on the field. And it was actually the pitching position's point of emphasis. And the umpire said he had no clue what the coach was talking about. So just be aware that people are reading that. Coaches and other umpires are reading that. So there's some good information in there. Like I said, we broke it down so that way you don't have to try and read the entire thing now. You can just go to the important parts that are listed in that email.
Cool. Can I ask a question about that real quick? So
yeah, go ahead.
Are we, I know it's probably best, I know probably how this question is going to be answered, but you got a guy first inning, nobody on base, and they're 1 up, 3 up, 3 down. Second inning, the other pitcher's doing the same thing. Then all of a sudden, as soon as they get on base, or this was at least early on in the year, they were not abiding by the proper rules. So I guess my question is, do we go address it as soon as we see it in the first inning with nobody on base, or do we wait and address it once there's runners on base and let them know that, hey, that's It's really a balk if you're coming into set position and you're doing a wind up or vice versa. So what is your 2 cents worth on how you would like for us to handle that?
Yeah, I think we should address it immediately. I've had multiple conversations with umpires that a good mechanic for them has been they watch the kid warm up. And a lot of the time when the kid's warming up, you'll be able to tell him whether or not he's going to try and throw an illegal pitch or not. And they've corrected that before the inning has started. So I would prefer we nip it in the bud right away. I know that where's my train of thought going with that? Yeah, I mean, we had a situation a couple weeks ago where something happened and the coach had let the umpire know about it early on in the game. They didn't say anything, and then it came to a situation where there was a runner at third, and they got the kid ended up getting banged on the pitching position thing, an illegal pitch balk, and that was something that could have been taken care of earlier on, so that way we didn't have to turn that into a firestorm. So does that answer your question, Dean?
It does. That's what I thought you would want us to do. But, sometimes you get in the flow of a game and there's no big deal. Nobody's on base. None of the coaches say anything. And then it doesn't become an issue until there's somebody on base.
Yeah. I would get on it right away. All right. The last little portion here, the ugly. And nothing's really been super ugly this year thus far. So I think my note here is don't let it turn ugly. And probably the ugliest thing that we had this year was happened over the weekend. There was a coach, or there was a I don't even know what the count was. Batter's in the box, leans into a pitch into the strike zone. It's strike 3. Umpire calls him out. Coach absolutely loses his brain, and should have been tossed way early in this whole sequence. And ended up not getting tossed until he bumped both umpires. So if we can run them quick, and I'm not saying have a quick trigger or be trigger happy, but there comes a point, when they're running at you and their mouth is foaming and they're standing on top of the plate reenacting what was happening, like at that point they need to go before it escalates even further. So I think my biggest note is don't let it turn ugly. Don't be trigger happy, but make sure we're holding coaches accountable as well. Other than that, that's been our only coach ejection for the year. The rest have been players, and those have been taken care of. So,
the one thing that I'm going to add to a coach's ejection, and this isn't in the NFHS manual or anything like that, the way we want to handle those, right? If a coach comes out and he's pointing at the plate, pointing over here, drawing lines in the sand, don't go over there and draw lines in the sand with him. Just hold your ground on the line until he's ready to come over and have a conversation with you. And then once he is, hopefully he asks a question. And if he doesn't, just simply ask, do you have a question for me? Right? Mm-hmm. Silence can't be quoted, right? And it's always been my philosophy, as much as I've struggled with it in the past, that comments get ignored, questions get answered, right? So when you're on the field and you take that approach, sometimes that's the best way. Let them vent, let them go crazy. And, not let them go crazy by all means, but, let them do their thing and then let them come over and ask a question. And once you give them an answer, if you're quoting a rule or if you're saying in my judgment or anything like that, and they continue to argue after that, make sure that's where you draw the line in the sand and say, hey, I've given you an explanation. By rule, in my judgment, unless you have any further questions, we're going to go back and play this ball game. And if they continue the conversation, move to your warning, move to your dugout restriction, move to your ejection. Obviously, if they say the magic words, auto eject. I think we all know what those things are if we're using common sense and fair play. If we do have an ejection as an umpire association, I want everybody doing this the same way. Once you eject a coach, you are no longer engaging with that coach as the ejecting umpire.
Yep.
Turn around and you walk away. And if you're in a two-man crew, hopefully your partner out in the field is paying attention and comes in and plays rodeo clown and helps facilitate getting the coach off of the field. If you're in a three-man system, whoever the closest umpire is, come help, play rodeo clown, get him out of there. Don't re-engage with the coach. Don't put yourself in a bad situation. We all know that we're on video. They have video at every single site. And if you can prove that you're not being the aggressor and you're the one that's being calm, collected, and cool, when that coach goes and complains to Colton or goes and complains to the AD and it gets back to whoever, they're going to say, show me the video. And if the video shows that you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing and you're not escalating the situation, but they are, there will be ramifications to that.
All right, last thing that I have here, just some reminder stuff, then we'll get into the Q&A portion, Chris. Schedules, obviously, make sure you're updating your schedules on your NSAA login page. Like I said, observers are out looking at everyone. We had a list this year. I think it was 47 umpires that needed re-upped on their evaluations. So the goal is to get all those 47 done. And then sprinkle in some others as well. So make sure your schedules are in there so that way we know where you're at. Next, headshots. School ballots are going to open up here in about a week. That's where the coaches and the ADs get to weigh in on postseason assignments and things of that sort. What we want to do is we want to make it as easy as possible for them to identify you. They might not know your name there, Bob, but they know that you got a bald head and glasses. And they know exactly what you look like. So make sure we're updating the.
I'm wearing a cap, Colton.
Make sure we're updating our headshots on there as well. Part 2 test. If you are looking for that next level of classification, Part 2 test will close on April 15th. Postseason applications, those are open currently now. Those will be open until April 26th. I know that's if you fill it out now and then you don't look at it again, I know things can change within your schedule. So make sure you're updating those periodically. We are in the same boat this year as we are last year, even though we have more umpires. We're pretty much, if you're going to, if you're available to work a day, we'll probably put you on a game just with how many games that we're going to have at different locations. And also, you might get asked to travel too. In the postseason, we do pay mileage, so be open to that as well. If I need you, if you're in Lincoln, I need you to go to Grand Island or something, we'll make it worth your while. Last couple of things. Officials Appreciation Week is next week. So you'll be seeing a lot of stuff on social media, I imagine. Some of you might be getting gifts. If a coach tries to argue with you next week, make sure you let them know that it's Officials Appreciation Week and they're not supposed to do that. I've had a coach before say, I don't care that it's Officials Appreciation Week. Oh, good. So that is next week. And then additionally, we are going to have the NSAA office, myself and Nate Newhouse, who's our supervisor of officials. We're going to host a mid-season webinar. I think that information got sent out by Nate earlier this week, but that'll be on April 15th at 7:00 p.m. It'll be a little bit similar to this of just talking through some of the stuff that we've seen early on, at that somewhat the halfway point of the season, and then answer any questions that anyone may have. So that's exactly what that'll look like there on the 7th. I did look at umpire schedules that day, and Geo is working. So if you want to be on a Zoom without Geo, we got you covered. And then last thing, evaluations. I mentioned schedules earlier, but we're trying to get out there and get everyone. So just be prepared to maybe run into one of our observers along the road here in the next few weeks. That's all I got, Gio. What questions do y'all have?
Holden, I got one. I got two actually. First one is last night I was doing a game, and one of the pitchers for Wayne is ambidextrous. So I don't know if you want to address sure what they can and can't do in an ambidextrous situation when a pitcher's ambidextrous, if he changes from left-handed to right-handed. I just thought it might be good information if those guys or somebody gets in one of their districts, or if they happen to make it to state, it would be an issue that probably should be addressed. That's question number one. If you could address that for us.
Yep.
And number two, I don't know what we can do as a state or organization, but when we're doing some of these tournaments, and we're doing sometimes 3 games, and we're at the ballpark for 7.5, 8 hours. Is there anything that we can do for these coaches? I mean, I see teams coming up for the next game, and they're sitting out there playing hacky sack, and they're doing everything but getting ready for the game. And, we talk to the coaches and say, hey, we'll be ready in 25, 30 minutes. And they're like, great, we'll be ready. And you go back out there, and the first team is just taking the field, and it ends up being 45 minutes between games. And, that just adds another 45 plus minutes to your day, which is already long enough if you're doing 3 games. So I don't know how to address that. I know coaches get all touchy when, they do 15-minute in and outs and sometimes 20, and they think it's a mini practice, but it gets really old, especially as the season wears on. And if you're old like me and you have to do 3 games sometimes in a day, you're trying to cut down your time as much as you possibly can. And I think everybody is that way, especially when we start getting into the season when it gets hotter. So I don't know how you address it with the coaches, but it is an issue, and it seems like coaches don't really care about how long it takes them to get ready between games, because they're only focused on their game.
Okay, we'll address number 1 first. So ambidextrous pitchers, I can't even say it right. So this is from the rule book here. If a pitcher is ambidextrous, there we go. The umpire shall require the pitcher to face a batter as either a left-handed pitcher or right-handed pitcher, but not both. So essentially what that's telling me there is they need to initiate before the at-bat starts, and whether they're going to go right-handed or left-handed. And then from there, then that is what they pitch with for the entirety of that at-bat. Perfect. Next one, tournaments, cutting down the time wasting from teams. That's the first that it's not the first that I've heard about it. When I was coaching, our AD used to say baseball sucks because it takes you 45 minutes between games to play catch and hit some ground balls. But this is the first time I've heard about this in this capacity. I'll have to do some digging, Dean, and try and see what other state associations maybe do about that. I know that once we get to state baseball, if we do go to a running clock, we do put up the visual of 30 minutes, so that way they know that we are starting that game in 30 minutes. So you need to do everything that in your power to be ready to go for first pitch in 30 minutes. Obviously, in our high school sites, a lot of the sites where you'll be having tournaments, they probably don't have that luxury. So let me see what other state associations are doing, and I can circle back to you, to everyone on that, on kind of what some of the tactics are from people around us.
I guess maybe what I'm asking is, can you just send out an email to the coaches and ADs and saying, hey, between games, if you're in a tournament situation, please do your best to be ready within 30 minutes. It becomes a long day for our umpires and for everybody else that's working. And I'm not trying to get out of there early or anything like that. I'm just, there's no reason they shouldn't be able to be ready in 30 minutes. And just a reminder, a refresher in their mind, maybe it will help them get them to do that.
Okay.
Colton, I worked one of those tournaments with Dean, and I can echo what he's saying. We were told we can be ready in 25, 30 minutes, and 45 minutes later, the first team was still taking infield. There's plenty of places around ballparks to play catch ahead of. I mean, it's almost like it's not playing catch unless you're inside the fence, and that seems silly.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time too, Bob and Dean, I think a lot of the time too is like the stretching piece. That's the one that probably drives me
Sure.
nuts the most. Is, you know, there's spaces around, even if it's the parking lot, for you to go stretch, but they wait until they get on the field and put on their cleats and grab their glove and grab their ball, and then they start stretching.
Yeah.
So here's what I can do, Dean. I'm gonna look, like I said, I'm gonna talk to some other state associations, see how they handle that. As far as tournaments go, I do talk to each AD prior to each tournament, just to walk them through what the rules are as far as scheduling and whatnot. That's something that I can add into the email of, you know, hey, make sure that between games we're giving 30 minutes and not 45. You know, make sure we get this moving along. So I can add that to the list of things that I send to them when they do host tournaments. That's easy.
Colton, real quick, I told Chris I've got to jump off here in just a little bit, but I wanted to make a suggestion about what I've seen in other states. I just recently came back to Nebraska, and I've come back to the high school and lower level, and I noticed something that hasn't really changed here in Nebraska, and that is still having umpires change in parking lots.
Yep.
And I know everybody giggles at that and what have you, but I can tell you that other states are initiating things, and like Tennessee, for example, one of the things that they initiated was they suggested to the schools that don't have, and this is at the high school level and maybe at the lower level, but regardless, there are still quite a few high schools, both in Omaha and here in Lincoln, that you have to change in the parking lot. They literally sent out suggestions to the school districts and said, hey, go buy a 10 by 10 shed. You see you're out in front of Lowe's or whatever. Make sure it has windows. So in the summertime, we're not asking to have, there may not be electricity in it, but there's windows where the air can at least blow through it. And then in the wintertime, you can close the windows, but it prevents a lot of things. I mean, having to change in a parking lot is archaic. And, and some of these other states that are facilitating this, it's the most amazing thing in the world. And these, you know, those sheds, $1,500, 2,000 maybe. I don't know. What are they going to spend once they put in a pitch clock at the varsity level? You know, why can't they put a shed? And in Tennessee, they put them on skids so they can have a forklift come and remove them after the season. So it's not like they're sitting out there forever, and they got to unlock the ballpark, unlock the shed during the games. And then the guy closing up the shop at the end of the day locks up the shed. And at least we're not left hanging out in the parking lot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something that's never been brought up to me. But I get it. I totally get it. Yeah, that's something we can look at. I'll reach out to Tennessee and kind of see how they started that whole deal with their schools and go from
I don't know where. I mean, I just know that in the Nashville area and what have you, I don't know exactly if all the areas were, but I've seen it. I saw it happen in Arizona as well. It's just a matter of, and I think it was facilitated because I was a part of a tournament one time where a guy got arrested. You know, he got arrested because a woman accused him. You know, we don't ever get naked in the parking lot, but she did. She accused him of, you know, and he ended up getting arrested. So I just think that the way that the rules are at a high school level and what have you, you know, still having to change in the parking lot is just at this stage as umpires is just, you know, kind of over the top. And at some point in time, I hope that they address it. But I appreciate your time today, Colton, and thanks for listening to that comment because it would go a long way with umpires. I know that.
Okay. That's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, I'll look for the rest of this on record. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye now.
All right. Anything else?
Hey, Colton, question here. I mean, early in the season here, we've got pitch counts and whatnot, but we've had a number of major blowouts in games. Any discussion on a mercy rule?
Yeah, it's actually come probably a little bit heavier these last couple of weeks than it has the last couple of years. So essentially, the NFHS says that state associations create their own game-ending procedures. Obviously, we follow the 10 after 5, which is what is in the NFHS rule book. I do know of 2 ADs that are going to write proposals to change that. Both of them have different ideas on what it looks like. One of them's a tiered 15, 10, 8. The other one is drop dead at 15. So we'll see kind of where they go with that. But to answer your question in a shorter form, yes, there's been conversation. If an AD does write a proposal and it does pass, it will not go into effect until the 2028 season. So for sure, the rest of this year and next year will be the 10 after 5.
Yep.
And I have something to kind of piggyback off of that Steve Speaker and I were talking about. And I'm pretty sure we talked about this last year, Colton, and you said you weren't going to touch it with the 10-foot pole, but I'm going to just bring it up again. We had an issue with a JV or below game earlier this year where our contract in terms of CUA and LPS, we say once we hit 2 hours, if the game is tied, the game is over.
Mm-hmm.
There is this memorandum or something like that being passed around amongst the ADs, and I think there's been 2 different ones that we've already seen this year that say, nope, if the game's tied, we got to play it out under international tiebreaker rules. Our contract, which we reviewed, does not say that. The game is supposed to be over. There was a game that happened. That exact same thing happened. They just said, we're going to play it out. We're going to go there. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Okay. That's what I thought.
So the run rule thing has come up. Not the run rule thing. The time limit in lower levels has come up to me a couple of times also at the start of this season. Our rules that we have in our baseball manual and in the NFHS rule book are all based around varsity competition. Now, obviously, we have some things in there for lower level as far as pitch count and all that other fun stuff. But, I mean, when it boils down to it, it's up to the schools or the school district and those assigning associations to work out the details and all of that. So, yeah, I don't foresee anything coming from the NSAA office anytime soon regarding time limits and lower level games and whether or not you play out the extra innings or not. I have seen a lot more this year, just looking at pitch counts. I have seen a lot more ties at the lower level than in previous years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more of just glancing at scores as I'm looking through that stuff.
Okay. That's what I assumed you would say. So it's a JJ and Adam Bonesteel question.
Yep, correct.
So we'll take care of that.
Jason had a question pop up. If you're a first-year NSAA approved umpire, should you even look at the Part 2 test? I'll always encourage you to look at the Part 2 test. It is a timed test. It's just more of a test your knowledge type of thing. I wouldn't, it's not mandatory. It could get you, it won't get you certified this year. But
I need those 8 hard games before I could for the following year, the way I understand it.
Yep. So if you're looking for more learning opportunities, I would say take it. Otherwise you're good until next year.
Understood. Thanks.
Yep. Any other questions?
Yeah, I want to go back to that ambidextrous thing just real quick, and I haven't seen it yet, but if we run into a situation where the ambidextrous pitcher is throwing to a switch hitter, what is the switch hitter's options? Can he switch mid? I mean, does he have to stay like the pitcher does once he's established his side?
Yeah, I believe, and I'm looking this up. And of course, they don't have it in the rule book. I'm going to go with it's the same as the pitcher. So once they start an at bat on one side, they have to stay on that side. Other questions?
Anybody, everybody.
Yeah, this is Terry. I just took the Part 2 test, and I noticed there's a couple questions there about scorebook and scoring and what's included in the scorebook and stuff. Is there any reason why that information is in there when it comes to the umpires?
Yeah, because it's in the short answer is because it's in the rule book. I don't know exactly. Do you know which questions exactly? I can pull the test up.
I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember exactly which one it was because I think I just put something down and moved on. I didn't really care what the answer was.
Yeah.
One question that I've never seen in the rules that I'd like to see is when it comes to mound visits and such with high school, because I know that's totally different than any other level. And I know there was an umpire a few years back that didn't know the rule, even though he had umpired varsity for 4 or 5 years, but we won't mention his name. But I think that'd be a good one to have in there.
Okay, and that's even something that I can outline in the Diamond report for next week, if that is maybe just a little helpful cheat sheet guide on how all of that shakes out. So that's good.
Well, and again, that's one of those things that was in the point of emphasis, and I also quoted Rule 6-6-2 and 3-4-2 on the offensive and defensive conferences in that email that I sent out on opening day on Thursday. So y'all should have that. If you don't, I'll resend it.
Yeah. No, I think that's out there in what you sent, Chris. I think it's just something I'd like to see in the rules questionnaire.
Yeah, and I think I can definitely make that suggestion. We don't necessarily write the test; that comes directly from the NFHS. But definitely, when we have our opportunity to share our thoughts with the rules committee, we can bring that up.
Bolton, we should make baseball coaches take the test because they sometimes think they know the rules more than they do.
Yeah, that's it's funny you say that. So last year we had a couple of coaches that that were asking, what does an umpire have to do to get certified to work varsity games? And so I'm talking to them the test and blah blah blah, and they so well, let me see the test. So I put the test into Google Forms, made it a test, and sent it out to everyone just to hey, just for shits and giggles, excuse my language. If you feel like you want to take the test, take it. We had 9 coaches take it, and out of the 9, all 9 failed. So,
not surprising. Not surprising at all.
Which really comes back to what Chris was saying earlier, and you're saying too. When you're explaining something to a coach by rule, that pretty much. I mean, I had that happen. Dean and I were working, and a pitcher started his windup. The batter yelled time, asking for time, was not granted time. The pitcher stopped, and there was this balk. Well, no, it's not a balk. Coach, by rule, a batter cannot cause a pitcher to balk. Okay, and they were good.
Yep.
They don't know that.
Correct. And I've always said, if you're able to quote the rule book, the majority of the time the coaches, if you can quote it word for word, Brad Tukes really good at that. If you can quote it word for word, then they will literally just turn around and walk away and won't say another word. I've had that happen to me as a coach before, where they've quoted the rule book and I'm like, damn it, they're right. I have read that. So, but the general question, I know we were kind of joking around with that. That has been a topic of discussion, is to have the coaches take the Part 1 test as one of their requirements into the year. We haven't moved to that yet. I think the adding the CPR and AED certification last year kind of took precedent over that. So I didn't think we wanted to keep hitting them with requirements, but I know it's been talked about, and definitely in some sports, baseball being one of them, we would like to see them take the Part 1 test with the rules meeting as one of their requirements each year.
I think that's a great thing, because then that's going to force umpires to step up their game for the guys who were just out there kind of coasting, kind of getting by, and avoiding the situations when they happen. Like, force you all to step up your game if the coaches can start quoting stuff out of the rule book.
100%. Other questions? All right, Chris, I'll turn it back over to you. But I do want to say thank you all for being on here tonight, and thank you for all you do. I know you spend a lot of time away from your families. Some of you take time off of work, which I know is difficult a lot of the times as well. I really do appreciate that everything that you guys do. And if you ever need anything, feel free to reach out. And I'm always an open book and willing to talk through things with you as you navigate throughout the season. So thank you guys.
No, thank you, Colton, for being on here tonight. We greatly appreciate it. You're more than welcome to hop off if you don't want to stay on. I've just got a couple items I'll go over with the group here, and then we'll be finished up.
No, Chris, I want to hear exactly what you have to say. It's just so I'm prepared for what's coming.
Just so I'm prepared. Well, one topic that we did not discuss that has kind of come up on a couple of different occasions, with the same coach, and got umpires that have different philosophies on it. And it's something that's so simple, in my opinion. Let's say we have a situation where there are no runners on base. We got a base umpire in the A position and a left-handed batter. And left-handed batter comes around. In your judgment, you don't think he went, but the opposing coach asked for an appeal. In my opinion, and Colton, you can tell me otherwise if you would like to. I've looked up the rule book. I've looked in the case book. I've looked everywhere I could try to find. There is nothing in there saying that a home plate umpire cannot appeal to the first base umpire in that situation. And the response that I've gotten back from a couple of people are, well, I'm never going to call that even if they ask for it. Okay, that's fine. Well, we shouldn't appeal because he can't see it. Well, how do you know? So when we are in that situation, let's not compound a situation. They're already asking for a check swing. It's very easy to just step aside, left hand, go down the line. Did he go? The one thing that I do not want to see from us as umpires is an umpire standing out there doing nothing, which actually happened in a game within the last week. And I've addressed with not only the coach, but also the umpire on how to handle that situation. Be a good partner. It's you two out there, and nobody else is out there to support you. So be a good partner. Don't compound a situation by doing something that will cause a coach and their alert system to be higher than what it already is. Just give what you got. Even if you go down and whether he win or not, and you're like, I'm not calling it, just go safe. No, he didn't. Right? Or yes, he did. Give something. That should all be something that you were talking about in your pre-games. 95% of my check swing appeals don't even come from a catcher or a coach in the dugout or wherever. Because if I get that curveball that comes in low and away, that fastball that comes up and in, and I see that kid's hands coming around, but the catcher stands up, or I follow that ball away out of the zone, I'm not going to pick up the bat. So it's very easy for me to just come up and be like, hey, did he go? Especially in a situation where we have 2 strikes and you're dealing with a potential drop third strike situation. That's a call we need to be on top of. Any questions on that? Okay. All right. This one's gonna be a little bit fun. So I was sent a video of a play that happened. I'm not sure if it was this week or last week, but it's going to be very similar. And hopefully I'm not stealing your thunder here, Colton, and it's not on your email that's going to come out. But I want everybody to watch the play a couple of times, and I want you to give your opinion on what you think would have happened here. So give me just a second. I'm going to share my screen. All right. Okay. Who is trying to join at this point? It's your dad, Mr. McHugh. Late to the party, Jake. Late to the party. All right, so let me go in here and share my screen. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. All right. Can everybody see the video here? Screen recording at the top left.
I see a blank screen on my side. It's all black.
Yeah, I see screen recording 03/27/2026 at the top.
I think you need to hit play.
Yeah, I know. I am pulling it up here. I had to go through a different source. All right, so boom. Gosh darn it. Here we go.
No need to fear, Chris. I've been on the phone the whole time.
I'm just giving you a hard time. All right, does everybody see the video here?
No,
No.
no, it's just
Hold on.
There it
oh,
is.
there we go. Okay.
All right, everybody see it. So we mentioned earlier, we talked about the obstruction point of emphasis, right? So hopefully, I don't know if you've seen this video or not yet, Colton, but this is a good one that allows us to be able to determine what is the difference between obstruction and what's the rule interpretation of interference here. So hopefully it's not blurry. It's a little bit on my end. But we'll go ahead and play it real quick. And I'll play it through a couple of times. Okay, we'll do it one more time. So as we're going through this play, a lot of things are happening here. Almost a hit by pitch, contact with the catcher, two fielders going towards the ball being thrown to first base and out recorded. What do you got? And why do you got it?
I got dead ball offensive interference. Batter was inside the field of play. Return the runners back and call the out.
Why?
Catcher's protected because he's fielding the ball.
Yeah, off the batter ran into the catcher. Batter was in fair territory when he did that.
Mm-hmm. But the pitcher was coming up to field the ball. Why can't we protect him?
That's what I did. That's what I did.
Primary
I thought the pitcher was going to field the ball. That's why I protected him. And then I thought the catcher was in the way. That's why I called obstruction.
Oh. Well, I wasn't going to tell him it was you, Johnny.
Well, I know it was me. Well,
I
don't
was trying
own
to be
it.
nice here.
Well, Jimmy and I talked about it, and I knew that it's kind of like a foul ball up the first base line. Who you going to protect? And I thought the ball was far enough that the pitcher was going to field it, so the catcher got in the way, and that's why I called obstruction. And then when I looked at it again, now that I look at it here, I don't think the pitcher did going to have it. So I probably kicked this one. I thought it was kind of maybe come out with a safe call going. They both were there at the same time. I think it could have went a lot of different ways, but I think probably he was fielding the ball, so I probably should have had interference. But you do one of them. I had to make a decision on who was going to field the ball, and it really wasn't going far enough to the pitcher. I think I tried to talk myself into it and think that the pitcher was going to field it, so the catcher was in the wrong. But now that I look at it, I think the catcher was the only one to have the ball. And so the catcher, the fielder, I don't think the runner knows that he has to go around him. I mean, he was just going straight, and
Yep.
and he went back, and then he made a lucky bunt. I mean, it's luckier than heck. It looked like it's going to hit him, and so he was in a rush to get going because he's already fallen backwards, and the catcher stepped right in front of him. So probably should have had interference. But at the same time, I could have said this is nothing because they both arrived at the same time. But it was just, I don't know. Honestly, it was a tough play. I don't think I know if I was real sharp on it.
Can I say this in real time? In real time, when this happened, I don't know how he got the bunt down one. I mean, he was going backwards and somehow got a barrel on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he takes a step backwards in the box. Well, then all of a sudden, it was just bang.
Yep.
I mean, it was a delayed dead ball. I mean, we let the play go, and then we got together and we convened, and I asked him what he had, and then we ended up calling him safe. But I think it was I've never seen anything like it in the years I've been doing this. It was so just bang, bang.
Yeah, I agree. It is not an easy play to officiate in a 2 to 3 second time frame, right? You got so many things going through your mind because that first thing you got coming in is, oh my God, does the batter get hit by the ball? Does it come off of his head? Does it go off of his bat? Okay, now I got to come around. Oh shoot, I've got contact. I've got the pitcher and the catcher both going towards the ball. And under the interference rule, can we protect both the pitcher and the catcher? Or can we protect the pitcher? Can we protect the catcher? What does the rule say?
I have to make the decision of which one I protect.
Yeah. You can only protect one fielder in that situation. So now you've got to judge, well, am I protecting the catcher? Am I protecting the pitcher? Who's got the better chance to make the play on the ball? The more common play that you see a lot in this scenario, at least I do, especially at the higher levels, is runner at first only, sky fly ball hit kind of in no man's land over the first baseman's head, where you've got the second baseman coming over to make the catch along the foul line. First baseman playing in front of the bag, trying to go back and make the catch, runs into the R1 going back into the bag, right? That's probably a more common play that you see there, but you still have to make the same choice. Like, who am I protecting? Who's going to make the play on the ball there?
Because in real time in that play, to me, they were both going to make the play. Does that make sense?
They could have, yeah.
But you go back and watch it, you can make your own assumptions.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that I liked about what did happen is you did let it play out. If you'd have killed it immediately, and then you wouldn't have been able to make a safe call.
I think we got that right.
Letting it play out made sense. Absolutely.
Yeah.
After that, it's just a matter of what you decide, and you had two heads together to decide that.
Scott from Bennington was okay with it. He goes, "Really?" And I go, "Yeah, I had him, impeding him to first, and I don't think it made a lot of a sense, but he was okay with it, and he kind of went on with it. But it was a banger game. It was a walk-off 3-2. Really, really good game. It's like, so
I mean, you can make an argument for both cases there, right? You can make an argument. If I was in that situation calling that play live, I would have said what Bob did, which is immediate dead ball interference, batter runners out,
return the
runner back to first. That's what I saw. That was my interpretation the first time that I saw the video.
But I will say it's easier to see it on video than to call it in real life.
Well, in real life, you guys, I mean, in my opinion, I think we're getting ourselves distracted a little bit by bringing our eyes up and looking at now, where's the defense and which defensive guy am I protecting and what's going on? I mean, if I'm reading that play, I see the kid back up, barrel down, and make no attempt to go around the guy trying to field the baseball. He pushes straight through the guy trying to field the baseball. That's clear to me. That play's over. You're running into a guy who's trying to field the ball. Your intentions aren't pure. That's a violation, I think.
Well, I agree with that. I think we have to avoid the intentions are pure thing, and we have to go back to what does the rule book say.
I don't think the batter knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
I don't think there was
Yeah,
anything
correct.
malicious
Correct.
with the play.
Well, yeah, because he was barely, like you said, Jimmy,
He was going backwards.
he was
Watch
lucky to
his
get his
feet.
bat on the ball.
Oh, crap. I bunted it in play.
Isn't it incumbent upon the offensive player to avoid contact with the defensive player in the process of fielding the baseball?
Yes, 100%.
Okay,
But-
well, that
But
seemed
which
pretty clear.
defensive player?
The catcher. He ran into him. Who cares
Correct,
what
but
the
the
pitcher's
pitcher was
doing?
also standing there. That's why we're using this as an example, Jake, because both players were converging on the ball.
Correct.
And the interference rule only allows us to protect one player. So are we protecting the catcher
Sure.
or are we protecting the pitcher? In
That
this
makes
case,
good
Johnny
sense.
protected the pitcher, said the catcher obstructed.
Yeah,
I'll
I
just
mean,
tell you,
by
if I was
rules,
behind the plate, Johnny, the catcher would have missed the ball, or the batter would have missed the ball. The catcher would have let it go, and I'd have got hit in the head.
Yeah.
That's how my luck rolls.
So, yeah, it was just a cool video that got brought up. Like I said, I wasn't going to name you or Jimmy on it. I think it's just a great conversation piece when we're talking about these plays that happen real time, because this isn't the only situation where this type of play is going to happen. You know, like I said, with the runner at first and sky fly ball, that stuff happens too. So just something to be aware of, and make sure that when you're having that conversation with the coach, because somebody's coming out, as you can see, that coach came sprinting out of the dugout from the left. Whoa, what's going on here? Right? So just make sure that you have your armament and you have the tools in your tool bag, which is your rule book, and make sure you understand the differences between obstruction, interference. When I have multiple fielders going on in the play, I can only protect one. And, you know, that'll
Because had
help.
you went the other way with the play, the other dugout was coming out.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it.
Nobody, one side's happy, one side's unhappy. And that's going to flip depending on which way you rule that
But
play.
at that moment in the game, it was such a pivotal moment because I think, wasn't it Johnny the next batter? That was the day it was super windy.
Yep.
He got one up in the wind. The kid from Bennington completely misplayed it in right field, and it sailed over his head, and they won the game.
I think a big part was just before that pitch, hot dogs went on sale. And I think the batter was heading to the gate to get a hot dog. And I think that's why we had interference.
Obstruction.
You know, I would just say
Obstruction, whatever I call.
I would just
whatever
say
I
that
called.
I would just say that we don't have the luxury of what the MLB and college umpires have of replay. So
No.
I think you just got to go with your instinct right away, because
Correct.
if you don't call interference, whichever way you call it, if you don't call interference and then you get together and decide that it's interference, and you've got a guy from first going all the way to third if the ball's thrown down the right field line, and you got a guy that came around and scored, then you're going to have a real shit show. I think you instantly have to make your assumption or your call based on what your gut instinct is at the second you see it happen, and live with it. Because, you know, I it's great to get together and talk about it, but if you change your ruling, then it can be a real shit show. I think you just got to make a call and go with it, and then, you know, whatever consequences come along with the arguing, you're going to argue with one of the coaches regardless. I think you just got to be instinctive and what your first instinct is and make the call and live with it.
Well, I would agree with but again, by letting them play out, you get that second head together, and sometimes you have to make a change if the two of you together can get that understanding.
But I hear what you're saying, Bob. But if you instantly think it's interference, you got to call interference and kill the play. And if you think it's a obstruction, then it's delayed dead ball, and you let it play out. I think sometimes if we let it play out and then go back and call interference, well, it should have killed it right away if you decided it's interference. And who's making the call? The guy who's standing in the B position, or the guy who's standing 1 foot from the play when he watched it happen? So I just think if you're the umpire in that situation, and right, wrong, or indifferent, I think you just have to be instinctive, make the call, and live with it, and go from there.
But I part of that I agree with, but the other part I disagree with, Dean, and that is the part that because you have a second person out there who can interpret rules, and maybe can't call the play, but at least he can interpret rules. It's no different. Like Gio and I worked about a week ago, and he banged a batter runner interference, and he was all over that. What's that?
Runners lane interference.
Runners lane interference. And
same thing that happened in the state tournament against your team, Dino, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Semifinal.
And I mean, he killed that thing, and it was loud, and it was definitive, and it was right, and we moved runners back, and nobody said a word. It was.
Well, that's not true. Brock lost his shit, and I gave him a warning, but that's okay.
Yeah, but it was.
But yeah, no, overall a great play. Colton, what are your thoughts on that after seeing the play, hearing the conversation?
I'm not going to give too much away here, because when you do go look at the video this week, it's very similar to what we just watched there. And so I'm trying to gain part of you make the call on this week's Diamond Report is all of our observers and other people that I've talked to all agree on what the ruling should be. But when we get outside of our circle, everyone has a different idea on what it is. So it's also me trying to gain some data on kind of where everyone's at with the decision. It's very similar to this play that we have here. And it's been interesting listening to you guys talk about, it's a situation where everyone's right. It kind of seems like, I mean, if you can find a way that it fits the narrative in the rule book, then everyone's right.
Agreed.
I'll tell you what exactly was going through my head, fellas, exactly this. Right when I came out behind the plate, I saw the catcher run into the batter, and I immediately, that's obstruction. And then I went, shit, he is going to field the ball. That is completely, I knew right away. And I think I even tried to sell it to Jimmy. I tried to get Jimmy to agree with me, because obviously I didn't want to look like a fool. But right after he ran into him, I go, he's going to field the ball. He has to allow him to field the ball. I really kicked this, but I went with it and tried to convince myself, fellas. Because I saw the catcher running into him, and I go, he can't run into him. And I go, yes, he can, because he's going to field the ball. So, Jake, you're exactly right. He just ran right through him, and he was going to field the ball.
Would it be hard to show it again?
No.
I didn't see the catcher run into the.
That's what I saw, Jake. That's what I made myself see. I think I tried to talk myself into making me correct. If you know what I mean.
Johnny, I thought the first thing you were thinking about is, do I want ketchup or mustard on my hot dog?
That's exactly what I was thinking, because I was about to run up and get a couple myself. It was a beautiful night, though.
Make it bigger.
It's all the bigger I can make it.
It was bigger earlier.
I'm sharing the tab. I haven't done anything different.
Nah, it looks the same.
Ooh, that's a batter running into a catcher, bro.
Yeah. I think you're right.
I mean, my favorite whole thing is it's a teachable moment. Like
100%.
We may never see something like this the rest of the season. It just so happened. I'm still perplexed. The kid got the bunt down because look what the pitch is at. I mean, the
He
pitch
throws
is
the bat
behind
behind
it.
his head. He's like, "Oh, I'm about to get hit."
When the ball's coming in on him, he gets it down.
Yeah, it's a wonky play, but a good one that allows us as umpires to be like, man, do I really know my obstruction rule and my interference rule and the Brad Tube verbiage in the rule book for this? Because if I have this situation happen in one of my games, I better be able to explain right, wrong, or indifferent, which I think you like we've been talking about, you can make an argument both ways that it could be obstruction, it could be interference. So use this example as a way to say, by rule, this is what I got.
Chris, I think you could, I think if you look at it from just one different perspective, let's say that the batter gets the bunt down successfully, right? And he takes 2 steps out of the box. He's in front of the catcher. The catcher now is coming from behind him, clips his heels, makes him trip and fall as he's going for the baseball, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, you probably do have obstruction. So
Yeah.
you know, maybe it's if the batter's behind the catcher and running into him, maybe that's a way to think about it. Or if the batter's in front of the catcher and the catcher runs into him. So maybe from that perspective, going forward, if that's something we think about, you know, one's probably interference and one's probably obstruction.
The question that I would say to ask yourself is, who has the legal right to that space in that moment? Who has the legal right?
Absolutely.
That's where knowing the difference between the rules is going to save you there, in my opinion.
Right. And in my judgment on that play, had that batter runner at least made an attempt to slide by, get by, go by, run around, might have been a little different, but it looked like he reared back and pushed right through him, like he was blocking him on a 6'4" trap.
So, yeah, it was a great video. I saw it tonight after our game, and I'm like, this is going to be a great topic of discussion. So I hope I didn't steal your thunder too much on that one, Colton. So I was hoping it wasn't the same video, but
it's not the same, but it's they're close. It's good.
No,
I
it's good.
purposely did that so it could be on this Zoom call. I really did it on purpose. Jimmy told me to do it. Jimmy said, "Screw this thing up and let's see if we can go ESPN or something." I don't know.
For the greater growth of the group. Thanks, John.
That's right.
No, let Maxwell teach this. He's a teacher.
All right, gentlemen, we're already quite a few minutes past our normal end time here. So does anybody else have any last minute questions for Colton before we go ahead and wrap this thing up?
Chris, I am so sorry. I'm a half hour late. It was my wife's birthday. I've heard some things about the 20-second clock. Are we yes or are we a no on those? I know it's in the book, but is everybody pushing that or not? Pitch clock.
As we discussed in the meeting earlier, some groups are doing it, some groups are not. We are doing it here in Lincoln, varsity only.
Okay.
Right. I sent out the parameters in the email opening day, April or March 21st on that Thursday, I think. So go back and look at that email. I will resend it. And I kind of laid out the parameters, which I discussed with Colton beforehand, before I even sent it. So that's what I want guys going by here in Lincoln.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're all on the same page.
Yep.
And I think it's important. I don't know that I mentioned this earlier. I think it's important that when you do have your pregame plate meeting with the coaches to mention that, like, hey, we are going to have a 20-second pitch clock today, just so that way they know. Someone did email me and say that they didn't know, and then all of a sudden they got banged on it during a game, which didn't sound right, but nonetheless, just a general reminder.
Yep. Good rule of thumb. Add that into your legally and properly equipped. Oh, and by the way, we're going to have a 20-second pitch clock today. Let's go.
I have a comment on that and a quick question for Bob. It fits in wonderful in the plate meeting to when you're going over the parameters. Varsity baseball, 7 innings, 10 after 5. There is no time limit. However, there is a pitch clock. And then, Bob, do you still go up to Omaha and work some of that PSOA stuff? And if so, how do you handle the pitch clock with umpires?
CUA. Yeah, I'm a member, but I have chosen not to go to Omaha this spring because there's plenty to do right here in Lincoln, and I'm trying to work Lincoln and the area because, well, it works better for me.
Closer.
I wonder how that's going to work if we get a blended crew.
Dean, how you've been working both a little bit. How has that worked out for you?
Well, not to try to disparage any other association, but it's not even discussed in Omaha at all at plate meeting or any other time. So Lincoln is the only one that's
been in,
pushing
it hasn't.
No, they're not. And here's what I tell guys. I simply tell them, look, yeah, there's a 20-second time, pitch clock. It's probably not going to be an issue. Let's just keep guys moving. Let's get them in and out. And, if a guy steps out of the box, I get him right back in within 2 or 3 seconds. If the pitcher's, lollygagging around there trying to readjust his nut cup or whatever he's doing, or looking into the ground or the sky because he's mad about the last pitch, I just tell the catcher, hey, tell him we got a 20-second pitch clock, get him moving. I haven't had an issue in either Omaha or Lincoln at all in any of the games that I've done.
Nope, me either.
And I just think if you make them aware, it's not going to be an issue. But you can't, if you make them aware, at least they know, and it's not a, well, what are you talking about? We didn't know anything about it. So, but I haven't, any of the games that I've done to this point, I haven't had an issue in either location with any of the pitchers that
Hold on, Bob. Hey, when you went up there to Omaha and worked, you didn't talk about it in the pregame with your partner that we're not going to do a pitch clock. We are going to do a pitch clock.
What? Never discussed. I
Okay.
mean, nope. And really, honestly, Jake, there hasn't been. Like I said, there hasn't been an issue as far as any of the games I've worked. The 10 or so games I've worked so far in the varsity level.
I heard you say that, Dean. And we're not talking about it taking
issue.
too long. I don't think that's the issue. I think we're talking about when the pitcher steps off, when we're 10, 12 seconds deep, and everything gets a little hairy, and then he steps off. Now it's incumbent upon him to get back on and get set and get it off before 20. That's when we're going to have a problem. That's when we're going to call a pitch clock violation. When the kid steps
Honestly,
off.
I haven't had those issues. I'm not trying to be argumentative. I just haven't had those issues. I just haven't had any at all.
Yeah, that's great. And I don't anticipate having issues. I just think it's important for us to all set the expectations by making sure we tell them at the plate meeting, we don't have a time limit, but we do have a pitch clock. And then we manage that intelligently. We're not 19, 20. That's a violation. We're trying to work with the kids. We're trying to get through the game. And like you said, these kids move pretty quick. We're not having issues with batters a lot, with pitchers a lot. Everything's going smooth. It comes to we're in the 5th or 6th inning and there's runners on base and the pitcher gets set. And then he's used to, since he's been doing since 9, stepping off when things get too hairy and everything resets. That's when we're going to have a problem.
Yeah. We're only having problems because those kids can't see a clock. In college, they can see a clock. They can't see a clock here.
Kids have never been able to see a clock. They've been told they could step off since they were 9 years old if it got too hairy, and that isn't the deal anymore.
The only time that I'm seeing if it goes a little long is because if their ear thing doesn't work and the wind is blowing and they can't get the signal and they go, I can't hear it. I can't hear it. That's a different issue, I think. I don't think they're stepping off to delay the game. I think they want the pitch. I want the pitcher and the catcher to be on the same. I don't want them to get crossed up and I get drilled. That'd be
great. That'd be great. And I don't care if they're stepping off to delay it or because they got wind in their ear or whatever excuse there was. If they violate the pitch clock, they violate the pitch clock. Right? We start it and they start going and everything goes. And let's say he steps off. As long as he gets back on and delivers before 20, we still don't have an issue. Everything's good. But that starts with us communicating that there's a pitch clock today.
Yes, and again, I will send out an email clarifying the parameters on that like I did before, and I will go through that and make sure that we are all on the same page with that. Unfortunately, with the way that the NFHS has written the 20-second pitch clock, we do not have a lot of parameters to work around. And that is what everybody needs to understand. So we need to use common sense and fair play. If it's an equipment issue or something's in the batter's eyes or something like that, yes, stop the clock, wait till everybody's ready to go, reset it, then go. If the pitcher's off the back of the rubber 5 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, and he's not doing anything, not making a motion to pick off a runner, not picking off a runner, not making a feint, okay, now we got a different argument, right? Use common sense. That's what this boils down to.
And I want to go back to, what Chris wrote at the beginning of the year with this. Let's not go ape shit over this thing and make it a big deal, right? And I think that makes sense. And Colton's telling us we're not going to enforce the clock at the districts and the state tournament. I'm not going to lie. It's tough if we're as an organization enforcing it and the others aren't. It's a mixed message. And, when I go to the plate meeting, my 2 comments in addition to the standard stuff is emphasis is sportsmanship and pace of play. And I know pace of play isn't always just about pitching, other things, but I was a basketball official for 20 some years. I can count to 20 pretty damn accurately in my head, standing in A, B, or C. So
that's only if you're in your bare feet
all year.
Yeah.
Little Dino.
All right. Any other questions?
Johnny,
Did
yes,
you
I
just say
can
we're
count to
not
20.
enforcing the pitch clock at districts and state?
Correct. You missed that part of the meeting.
Well, then why would we do it during the year? I thought that was the whole point. I want them to be ready for the tournament.
It's a pace of play thing more than anything else. Correct, Colton?
I just can't
Correct,
really.
yeah, I mean,
I can't really see banging a kid for stepping off when everything gets intense late in the game. He steps off and then he doesn't get it off in 20. I can't see banging him for that during the regular season the whole point is so he learns, so it doesn't cost him during the tournament. And if he's not learning for the tournament, why would I do it then? I mean, it's one off here and there, one a game, maybe one every 3 games. Like, it's not a popular thing, but it happens. A kid will step off when he's not supposed to step off, and then he'll let it run out. And I can't see making a deal out of it during the season when it's not going to matter when they go play for real anyway. So why would we do that?
yeah, that's up to CUA on how they want to handle that. From our end, kind of as I was saying earlier, you're starting to see a trend where the 20-second pitch clock is now going to start getting a little bit more attention in the rule book, and they're going to start cleaning it up and adding parameters. But the whole premise of what the NFHS is saying is essentially it's a tool for umpires to use during a game, whenever they feel like they need to use it. The big thing is I prefer that you either start the game with it or you don't have it at all, versus coming in the 3rd inning and just saying, hey, you guys are taking too slow, we're not going to add the pitch clock. I think at that point it becomes unfair.
Yep.
Across the board versus, regular season versus the postseason. I get what you're saying, Jake. It's a lot of the preparation during the season prepares you for the postseason. I mean, I remember coaching in Omaha. We made it to the state tournament and didn't have anyone time us between innings one time. And then we get to state and all of a sudden it's 60 seconds and our dudes aren't ready because they hadn't had to deal with that all year. It was a little bit of adapt and adjust, but I think that's, the pitch clock thing. I appreciate collecting the data that or the just at least hearing the feedback and the comments from you guys doing it, so that way I can take that to the rules committee and just say, hey, you know, we're having very minimal issues with, like, the kids are on top of it. Let's clean this up for our umpires so that way they know exactly how they're supposed to interpret it, because it doesn't clarify any of that in the rule book. So again, long answer. I'm good with however CUA wants to handle it. I appreciate all of the pieces of it, even if it is just the loan association of the state that's handling it that way.
Yep. And I'll send out more clarification on that as either tomorrow or the day after, on how we handle that. So, any other questions or concerns?
I'll just add that I would hypothesize if we were all go out and work a game that we would all handle it fairly similarly in terms of what the rules intended for. I think where there's big opportunity is to make sure our verbiage and our plate meetings are all consistent across our own organization and be unified in that sense. Control what we can control. Like, we can't control a different association. So if we can be all on the same page together, I think that's the biggest thing.
100%. Thanks, Tuck.
Yeah, that's helpful. I'll just mention, Chris, for whatever it's worth, my outlook on it's changed tremendously since being informed that it's not enforced in postseason. I see it now as a tool to keep things going during the game, and that's it. And I mean, the players are doing a great job with that. So you're right, Dean. It's not a big deal, because I can't see banging a kid for stepping off late in the game if he gets back on and doesn't deliver till 23, 24, 25, because they're not going to do it in the state tournament. So how's it going to help him for me to do that? Like, I'll use this as for what it's intended, to make sure everybody's moving along and there's a good pace of play, but can't see banging a kid for a pitch clock violation in this until there's more definition, until they're held accountable postseason.
I would add, where I've seen more kids stepping off, it's the communication piece with the devices. We had one today where they were stepping off, and all of a sudden, kid would deliver, and the catcher was getting crossed up. I mean, I think it's been more with the communication devices more so than just stepping off or trying to pick or whatever. I think it's been the communication piece from relaying pitches to the catcher and pitcher.
Correct. And that's easy. Time, equipment, right? Point to the hand, equipment. For those of you that do college baseball, you all know what that is, right? Because they have the 20-second clock way more defined at the college level. And that's one of the rules that they have in there that allows the reset of the 20-second clock is anytime you have an equipment issue. So that's why I try to say in my email, use common sense and fair play. I'm not telling guys to go out there and bang every single 20-second clock violation. But we should be informing the coaches that, yes, we are watching that. We are monitoring that. If we do it at the plate meeting consistently, then we shouldn't have an issue. That's, I think, is the key in this situation. Because we've noticed, we even started enforcing this last year a little bit. And all the teams in Lincoln that I've seen so far, they're on the rubber, ready to go, ready to pitch. Like, we're almost having to, like in today's game, Jimmy had to hold up the pitcher 3 times because he wanted to just get on and go, right? That's because of consistent training, enforcement, and stuff like that. So that's why we're not seeing issues. We just need to make sure we stay on top of it.
And I'm okay with that, because at least you can slow that down.
Yes.
Hey, Colton, just one last thing. Just thinking about what today, Chris was nice enough to come work with me and Jimmy today on a Lincoln East and Creighton Prep game as a 3-man crew. And when the game was over, we got to talking about it and how much easier it was, how much less pressure there was on us as officials at a 2-man versus 3-man. There was a missed first base by a runner that hit a double that probably wouldn't have been seen if there hadn't been 3 officials on the field. Have you ever thought about or talked about, or, maybe something to implement? Like, we have a officials week, right? Why not have a 3-man week or whatever, because we don't do it until we get into district play. and, and some of it, gets a little rusty and we're not in tune. I think that'd be a good idea to try to implement something like that throughout the year, to let all officials, for a week, if they have 3 or 4 games that week, implement some of those 3-man rotations into a ball game, actual game, versus waiting till district or states where, you may be a little rusty or, oh gosh, I can't remember. Oh yeah, that's what we got to do. Maybe it would click better for, as we get into districts and state, I just think it would be something that we should probably work on doing rather than having a 3-hour or 2-hour 3-man clinic, right before districts or whatever the case may be. Have you ever thought about something like that, implementing something like that? I know it'd have to be something that we would probably have to incorporate with the schools, if they're going to pay 3-man crews or whatever. But I'm just thinking about that today and some of the things that Chris and Jimmy and I were talking about after the game, what we saw and what we would have probably missed. I just think it might be something to think about.
Yeah, great question, Dean. That is not something that I have thought about, to be completely honest with you, but it does make sense where you're coming from here. I know that a lot of the conference tournaments stack up on top of each other during the year. So you have the EMC going on at the same time as the Trailblazers, the same time as the Hack, so on and so forth. So I think that would be a good week to, because it is a little bit more high intensity baseball. You have the conference tournaments going on, to maybe do something that week where you just tell schools, hey, we're going to go 3-person crews this week. You're expected to pay all the umpires the same fee, blah, 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 X, Y, Z. But at the end of the day, it does come down to individual associations and their contracts with, similar to what we were talking earlier, their contracts with schools and with school districts, just because we don't assign during the year. But definitely something that we can throw around and kind of see what people think. Totally makes sense.
Well, it might help when it comes to Class A districts where umpire Class A will say, well, we'd rather have 3 umpires and not have so damn many sites than have 2 umpires.
Yeah, I brought that up last year to some Class A coaches. They said, would you rather have 2 or 3 umpires? So, well, do I still get to host? And they said, well, if we go to 3-man, no. They said, well, we'd rather still host. No, okay.
I worked a Class A game last year, 2-man, and there was probably 12 people there.
Yep. Yeah.
That's the wrong answer, Coach, because if you're after fair play, you're after 6 eyes on the field, not 4.
All right, gentlemen, no more questions. We're way over time limit here. So
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much for hopping on, giving us your time tonight.
Has the 20-second time clock expired?
It expired 40 minutes ago.
I think that's obstruction. I think that's obstruction.
Johnny, go get your hot dog.
That's
your
all
partner.
interference. You're
That's your
ejected,
partner.
Johnny. Get out of here.
Jimmy called it. I just said whatever
That's
Jimmy
your
told
partner.
me to do.
Thanks, everybody.
Chris,
All right,
next time
gentlemen,
you're
thank
on
you very much.
Damn it,
Appreciate you
Jimmy.
being on
Quit
tonight.
getting me in trouble.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, until next time.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you guys.
See ya.